This is Cruise Control. Your on-air automotive magazine with co-hosts Fred Staab and Les Jackson. Everything you need to know about new and used cars. Industry news. We'll fix or repair your car on the air. Fasten your seatbelts and let us take the wheel. Now, your ride is about to begin. Because you're on Cruise Control. Cruise Control. Cruise Control.
Hey there, welcome to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. It's that time, and that means me, Les Jackson, and that guy, Fred Staab, are going to go through a whole lot of stories about the auto industry, review a car or two, and I don't care what it is, I'm going to call it a car. And speaking of which, we have a story about that.
We sure do. We sure do, Les. We got, actually, it's from Jim Farley, Ford's CEO, and he says America's got to learn how to fall back in love with small cars. There's only one problem. Ford no longer sells small cars in the U.S., so we'll talk about that.
That's right. And Audi unwraps the 2025 Q6 E Tron. And you know it's going to be well made. You know it's going to be expensive.
It's a great looking car, though. And
it is.
We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about what Mclaren has in store for the Goodwood Festival. Of course, that's coming up in the UK. And we will talk about how they'll be digitally printing parts in the near future. Digital printing, Les Jackson. Sounds good.
Mm-hmm. I'll have to, I got to get me one of those. Anyway, Mercedes is spending big on the internal combustion engine. Yes, I said internal combustion.
Yes, that's true. And also over at Nissan, they are paying, home visits to people to explain their vehicles and all the tech that's involved with that. So, hey, is this a trend? Who knows?
I believe it is.
Okay.
I have a feeling there might be a business plan here for individuals like you and me.
Hey, that's a good idea. But
and speaking of learn how to do stuff, a special driver's license to drive a supercar, one country requires it.
Yeah,
Good
and it sounds good, but it could be incredibly invasive. We'll talk about this. I don't even know how some of the things they're talking about would be monitored, but we will tell you about that and let you have your opinion and tell us if that's a good idea or not, or maybe it's something you'd like to see here. Who knows? But all that and more is coming up on Cruise Control. I know you always do.
That's right.
Yeah, so we will talk about that and more on Cruise Control. We are just getting started, so stay tuned because there is plenty more coming up and a full hour of automotive information. Let's talk about falling back in love with small cars when we come back on Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine.
Cruise Control.
And welcome back to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. Fred Staab and Les Jackson. Interesting piece from CNBC this week. Ford's CEO, Jim Farley, says he wants Americans to get back in love with small cars. Only one problem, Les Jackson. Ford doesn't make cars, or at least doesn't sell cars here anymore. They haven't for quite some time, have they?
Except for the Mustang, yes, which is a small car, but not that kind of car. This is interesting to me because, and I think this is a trend, and certainly you and I have been pioneers in this trend.
The cheap and cheerful trend?
Getting back into cars. There an awful lot of people don't need SUVs and the expense of them. So Farley is saying they need to get into small cars. And of course, you brought up one little catch-22 on that. However, I think he's giving himself away. I think he's got some small car plans in the offing.
Yeah, and I think it has to do with affordable electric vehicles because, as you know, they've been losing like an incredible amount on electric vehicles, and he said he can't do that. And kind of some interesting takes on this because everyone thought he was talking about big vehicles like F-150s and things like that, but after that, they rolled it back and said, well, he really meant that electric-powered Super Duties, F-250s and F-350s wouldn't make any sense because he said the battery alone would be $50,000. So what is he saying? Obviously, there are electric vehicles coming from Ford that will be affordable and will make money. I mean, we know that for sure. He has the whole skunk works looking at this. He said enormous EVs, enormous SUV EVs are never going to make money because the battery is just too much money to make.
Well, the fact is, if other companies can make small battery-powered vehicles, Ford can too. They know what they're doing. The big thing is making money at it, and you know, there's a hesitancy on the part of buyers still for many reasons, but also there's a desire on the part of buyers to have something very economical that doesn't cost a lot to run, that has decent range. So why wouldn't we have a battery-powered Fiesta or Escort?
Yeah, I mean, I miss the Focus SVT too as well. They were great vehicles and a lot of fun to drive. And I don't know, they won't be able to compete with the likes of BYD that are selling vehicles for under $10,000. But the goal is to have an EV that costs $30,000 by 2027. Now, GM sort of has that with its Equinox EV, but as far as that goes, immediately they sell the more expensive model, and then the one that's supposed to be around $30,000 to $35,000 takes a little while to get there. Right. I've seen some designs of some of their SUVs that look great. One looks very similar to a Kia offering. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what they do, but it can't go on the way it is with losing $60,000 per electric vehicle, and it just doesn't make sense. Also, the other reason too, large trucks with electric power, the battery the thing will weigh like 20,000 pounds, right?
It's going to weigh as much as a battleship eventually. And this isn't happening in a vacuum. All the other manufacturers are having the same problem.
Yeah.
Same issues. and it's solvable, but it's not solvable in the short run. And maybe the thing to do is a long-range plug-in hybrid of some kind in the interim, and but get some practical-sized vehicles out there.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we'll see what they come up with at Ford, but when we come back, we're going to look at what Audi has already come up with. Their e-tron Q6, they revealed it this week, and we will have the details for you when we come back on Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. Stay tuned.
Cruise Control.
Hey, welcome back to Cruise Control. We're still on the subject of electric vehicles, and it's a big subject. Audi, of course, is big time in this, and the 2025 Q6 E Tron has been unveiled, and it, in their words, sets the new standard for Audi electrification, delivering impressive dynamics with advanced tech, greater range, and everyday usability.
All right. It's got nice wheels.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
And I like the wheels.
Actually, the wheels aren't bad, and it does have, some style.
It does have some style and doors that work. I'm pretty sure of it.
Yeah. Parts that don't fall off. Yeah.
This is going to be available Q4 of this year. 300 miles of range, and it will come with all-wheel drive, standard, and offers 422 horsepower or 456 horsepower with launch control, 0 to 60 time of 4.9 seconds, and a top speed of 130 mile per hour, and a 307-mile electric range on the EPS test cycle, but that will not be at 130 miles an hour.
No. Take your pick. Long range, top speed.
And dare I say it, Les, this is a station wagon, isn't it?
It's very, very much a station wagon, which America desperately needs. Trust me.
Beautiful interior, all the technology, the Audi goodness. They include a new asynchronous AC induction motor, or as they put it, ASM, on the front axle, as well as a newly designed permanently excited synchronous AC motor, PSM, on the rear axle.
Yep.
Thing's going to be a rocket ship. I mean, direct cooling of the rear electric motor is via a dry sump electric oil pump. I mean, if you're looking for technology, you've come to the right place, right?
Well, yeah. You at some point you think, how many miles of wire is there in this vehicle?
Yeah.
And what happens if something shorts out? But yeah, a lot of tech. Well, which is true of Audi anyway. I mean, they're certainly innovators in an awful lot of things.
Yeah, and
So,
this has 800-volt technology. It has 12 modules of 15 prismatic cells connected in a series for a total of 180 cells. 100 kilowatt hour battery, which nets 94.4 kilowatt hours of actual power. And their charging station can take it from 10% to 80% in about 21 minutes with an addition of 130 miles of range, which is pretty good, isn't it?
that's pretty good. I'm not a big advocate of super fast charging because I don't like the current densities that these things have to be charged at. That's a destructive force. So 21 minutes, if you stop at a typical gas station on the interstates, you're going to be there 20 minutes or so. But by the time you start charging up and go on in to use the restrooms or get some coffee or
And your Slim Jims.
whatever.
Your
Yeah,
Slim
and your
Jims.
Slim Jims. Yeah, well, and your Cinnabon.
Cinnabon with a Slim Jim sticking in it. How
Yeah.
would that be?
and a caramel cappuccino at Starbucks.
Or a Mountain Dew ice cream float.
Oh boy!
We could keep going on this, but
I think everyone would get sick if we kept going.
yeah, I agree. And as I say, if you want technology, look no further than Audi when
Yeah.
it comes to this. Meanwhile, over at Mercedes, big investment in the internal combustion engine. They say they're going to have the top technology in internal combustion engines, and the S-Class is going to be getting a number of updates, and one of them could be new engines with new technology. They say they're spending on internal combustion. They are not giving up on being all electric by they are giving up on being all electric by 2030, but they are going to be having internal combustion engines for quite some time, hybrids and the like, and they are still going to develop the internal combustion engine. So interesting swing.
It is, and they were really one of the very first companies to have internal combustion regulated engines back in what 1893 or something.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of nice that they're continuing the research and technology, and I'm waiting for an S class with a 1 liter engine in it.
That's right. And outputting 500 horsepower. I mean,
Yeah.
they say it will last well into the next decade. No, we'll see. We're lot to talk about actually on that. What's going on with that? So we will keep you up to date on that. When we come back, Les, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on with Mclaren, and they've got some fun planned for the Goodwood Festival. Of course, that's coming up in the UK. And they're also talking about some technology that I think we're going to hear a lot more about, and that is digital printing of parts, making them very lightweight, making them the same every time exactly. And so we're going to talk about that when we come back. We're also going to talk about Nissan. Nissan is saying that there's so much technology in their new vehicles that people get overwhelmed when they come to pick up their vehicle, and they just can't encompass all of the techniques and use of data and use of all the technology. So they are sending ambassadors to people's homes to sit there in their driveway once the person has had a chance to drive the vehicle a bit and show them all the technology they can use. Now, I don't know whether the dealers do this, but I don't think the dealers are really interested in doing this. I think they feel their job is done, but I think it's a good idea because some people are overwhelmed by technology. I mean, example, we had a recent meeting and someone said, what's an app on a phone? How would I add an app? So think about this. Now that person's buying a new Nissan or other vehicle, and they're like, wireless? How do I connect my phone? Or how do I, check the charge of my vehicle while I'm in my house? So a lot of things I think people could be helped with. I do think that there's a lot of that.
Really, and I don't believe the salespeople are able, for whatever reasons, to spend much time with their customers when they come to take delivery on their new vehicle. I think the procedure is probably pretty quick and cursory. Let's use that word. And to really sit down with somebody and show them how everything works, I think you're talking every bit of an hour.
Oh, at least depending on the person. So we'll talk about this and about that plan when we come back. And also, is there? There is a country that is going to require a special license for supercar drivers. We'll tell you what's involved with that and get your take on it. Is it a good idea or not? So stay tuned to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. In the meantime, tell us, would you switch back to a small car if you could get it for, let's say, $30,000 or less? Let us know. We'll be right back.
Cruise Control.
And welcome back to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. Fred Staab and Les Jackson. We are back to the automotive news, and this time it has to do with McLaren getting set for the Goodwood Festival. Les, for our listeners that may not be familiar with the Goodwood Festival, tell us a little bit about it.
It's the Festival of Speed. Goodwood has been around, I
don't recall a time when it hasn't been around.
I think certainly as long as Le Mans has been around. Mm-hmm. And it's just a magnificent thing because it's like a huge car show with very, very large crowds. And it's done on the track, and they have, if you think of whatever event that involves a car, it's taking place there, including, the big time, which would be McLaren, and in this case, the Senna version, Ayrton Senna, the great driver who was sadly killed was that Poe or was that
I don't
anyway.
I don't remember, but his silhouette is on the car. But it involves a driveway, basically driving up a driveway, doesn't it?
Right.
Goodwood Festival.
I would love to have partaken in that when I was in England several times.
Whose driveway is it again?
Oh, it's I know the name of the estate.
It was some royal guy.
It's not. Oh yeah. It's not Bewley, but it's
We'll get back to on that. Yes.
Yeah. We'll get back. Beautiful surroundings.
Yeah.
I've been there, but not to the festival.
Yeah.
And it's just such a nice thing. I think from what I hear, everyone's very polite. Everyone cleans up their own messes. Hundreds of thousands of people. It doesn't sound familiar, does it?
No. But 30-year legacy of Ayrton Senna, and who won 3 Formula One World Championships with McLaren. And he passed in 1994. Beautiful vehicles. And, of course, these will straight-up racetrack. We'll see anything from these McLarens to something more antique. Okay.
What happened?
Hold on one second. We will reconnect.
Okay.
So absolutely gorgeous vehicles, and a lot of cool stuff that will be shown at the Goodwood Festival of Speed and driven, which is even more important that it's driven. Let's talk a little bit about some of what McLaren's going to be doing. A little technology, Les. Supercars are getting lighter thanks to Divergent, which is a manufacturer, Divergent's adaptive production system. And we are talking basically about digital printing. They're going to partner with, McLaren's going to partner with Divergent's adaptive production system, or DAPS, which will be used for chassis components. And it's additive manufacturing, basically digital printing. And this could be a game changer for vehicles in general, couldn't it?
Well, it could, and it's a super advantage if you can print. You could print your own car. There's actually a place over here near the airport, across the river from D.C. Airport, National Harbor. And you're taken around in autonomous little 10-passenger buses, I guess. But there's a facility there that actually prints the buses. and I was taken for a tour of it 2 or 3 years ago. It's fascinating. I mean, they actually print this whole bus. And that shows you where the technology is. So this is great for McLaren. They've always been innovators from when they started way back in the early 60s. And it's hard to believe that a supercar can get lighter than it is, because they don't weigh anything. But they will get lighter.
Well, additive printing or digital printing, you think about this for restoring cars too. If there's a very small, you're looking for that piece of trim, or that Bakelite plastic thingamabob, as long as you have one, you can scan it. It doesn't hurt it. It's just scanning it with a laser, and you can make as many as you want, which is pretty cool.
That's right.
So it's no excuse for having missing trim pieces anymore, right? Other than not being able to afford it.
Well, there is that. There you go, bringing up details again.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah,
but I think it's good news. I think it's good news, and
it is.
Yeah. We were kind of talking about it before a little bit. Nissan, with their electric vehicles rolling out, they're high-tech. There's a lot going on with them. People kind of get, fogged over when they're buying a new vehicle. Now they have this new plan to go out, and it's called Second Delivery. It's essentially a no-cost follow-up for people who buy a new Nissan, and they kind of sit with them in their driveway or in their garage and go through some of the new features of the vehicle. And because I would venture a guess, if they don't do that, people will come up with their own ways about doing things and maybe not use some of the technology at all, right?
Well, that's usually what happens. I can't tell you how many people I know who have come to me saying, do you know how this works on this car, or what does it mean about remote start?
Right.
All of these, and the backup cameras, people with brand new vehicles, I watch them out my window every day trying to park in the pull-in spaces. And they can't come in straight or back out straight, and yet all the technology's right there on their screen.
Right.
Just let the car do it.
Right.
Terrible amount of ignorance about how the cars actually work.
And they're just not shown it. They're just not shown it. They won't read the owner's manual. So maybe if someone does this and sits there, I think it's a nice sort of a concierge type of program that would be, like, hey, it's a lot of technology, no problem, we're going to go through it. I would venture a guess there are some people that never even connect their phone to their car for Bluetooth.
Right. I know some of those people.
You know some of those people, yeah. Or never realized that they could, use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto to send texts, just with their voice and that type of thing. So I think it's great.
They don't even know how to use their voice for anything, like the nav system.
Yeah. I mean, and there are some bizarre features. Like, you remember that they did the gesture thing, like, I want to make the fan.
Man,
it's like you're on an aircraft carrier deck and telling them to throttle up.
That I panned that when we were reviewing those a number of years ago. That just was annoying.
That was annoying, and I mean, it's easier just to say fan up, increase fan. Yeah, but there's a lot of things like that are hidden. And I know you're looking at a new car, awaiting a new car, and you read the owner's manual online, right?
And the 592 pages.
A little light reading for you.
Well, look, for me, hey, that's 20 minutes. The fact is, in spite of the fact that you and I have driven thousands of new vehicles, and we know how they work. I knew that there would be some things in there that I wasn't aware of, like 4 different park assist modes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that wasn't obvious. Hill hold.
Right.
3 different ways to do that. These are things that people don't even use because they don't know they have it.
I never knew why you would need hill hold with an automatic car, but maybe you can explain.
Because it could be. We have hills around here that are so steep that automatics drift back.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that will come in handy. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Very much.
Read the owner's manual. It's helpful.
Well, sadly, nobody does. Well,
All right.
virtually, hardly anyone does.
We'll be right back with more on Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. Fred Staab and Les Jackson.
Cruise Control.
Welcome back to Cruise Control. We have an interesting story. We were talking about supercars a little while ago.
Yep.
I, of course, own several.
I only own hypercars. I don't own.
Oh, well,
I don't dabble in super unless it's 1,000 horsepower or more.
I confess that I lack that kind
You're down in the 700.
Yeah. Well, I count it in pounds per horsepower.
Okay.
So
right.
In our case, the Cobra is 5 pounds per horsepower. Okay.
No, that's pretty good.
It's Anyway.
Thank you. That was adequate.
That's right. So much for the dreaming phase of the show.
Yeah.
Now, the reality is if you have a supercar and you live in Australia.
South Australia.
Australia.
Which apparently is different than some other areas.
Which I never knew, honestly.
No, me neither.
But you can't just put license tags on it and drive it.
Not anymore.
Unlike this country and some others, they actually take driving seriously, and you have to have some skills. And in that case, you have to complete an online course and then pass a test to obtain the U-Class license.
Right.
So there. This is similar to Finland, which has the hardest driver's licensing in the world and the best drivers.
Yeah, they actually do take it seriously and learn about many things when they
40
drive.
hours of classroom, 40 hours of behind the wheel.
Yeah. Now, this comes because of a tragic accident. Someone bought one of these cars and ended up on the sidewalk and hit people, and
Yep.
you can't mandate smartness, or unfortunately you can't ban stupidity either.
Yeah, that's right.
But what's weird about this, and I'm not so upset about that special license, but deactivating any driver aids such as traction control, stability control, or anti-lock braking is an offense, and you can be fined up to 5,000 Australian dollars, which I believe is around $3,368, and get 6 demerit points on your license. How would they ever, enforce that? It's a push of a button.
Well, what they would enforce it when it happens. If you're on a track and you crash, they're not going to care. But if you've deactivated these things and then you get drunk and you go out and you crash into a couple stores, then it's going to show that you deactivated these on the streets.
After the fact, in other words, they would look at it after the fact.
Right. They wouldn't. They're not going to come around and check.
Right. You're at a stoplight and a cop runs up. Wait a minute. I see that traction control is off.
Exactly. No, that just it wouldn't be practical to do that, but they would certainly do it after the fact, and you should be responsible for what happened.
I'm interested as to what's on the test. I mean,
me too.
That would be. I think also, like we had a piece last week about learning to drive your Bronco off road. I do think if you have one of these supercars, and it's pretty common nowadays for Corvette owners or Mustang owners or what have you, to have these courses where they do learn what it can do and how to control it and experience like what it's like to go fast and what you need to do as far as braking and controlling the vehicle. So I'm just wondering what's on the test for sure.
I would love to know.
Yeah, I wonder if it's online. We'll have to.
Well, I'm going to check while we're talking. You can.
Yeah. It's called the U license. And you have to have it. Now, the only thing I can think of, for this is sort of the crackdown, but I think of those takeovers, where the people sometimes in stolen cars spin them around. They take over the street. Now there's certain locales that are going to. up the penalties for it, imprisonment, and they may confiscate the car. But in many cases, that car is stolen. So it's like, hey, sure, take it. But I can think of that crackdown for that. Also, there's some talk that people that do that would lose their driver's license privileges for several years, which would make a big impact on your life, wouldn't it?
Well, it really would. By the way, I am so far finding out there is no on-road test.
Component. Okay.
Right. And there's a license course that you have to take.
Okay.
So it learns how to safely operate a high-powered car, the risks, electronic stability control, emergency braking, how they work, and a bunch of multiple choice questions about what you know about the vehicles. Actually, that's a pretty easy test.
Yeah. I would say one of the biggest things is if you're going that fast, the closing speed to cars is radically different, and the ability to stop and avoid it.
Yeah, threshold
accidents.
braking, you better know what you're doing.
Yeah. There's a big problem with that, I believe, in the Philippines or Taiwan with Lamborghinis, people just driving them like crazy, like just don't bother stopping for stoplights and things like that.
Well,
So
that's wonderful.
Yeah, and big accidents with them, big accidents with them. So what do you think? Should supercars get a special license? Is that something that you think we will see here in the U.S., some kind of special licensing for, let's say, cars over a certain horsepower? I remember in Europe, and I don't know if they still do this or not, but when I first went over there in the late 70s, they had the speed limit for certain cars on the back. And the slower economy cars would have 80, and then you would see a BMW, and it would say 120 on the back. So I guess it was the way the police officer would say, like, oh, well, they're allowed to do that. That's a BMW, but nope, that's a base model Twingo. So 80 is maximum for that. So I don't think they still do that, actually.
No. I know that they don't do that, and it turned out with our roads and our traffic and all these other things, they just gave it up.
Yeah. So interesting approach on this, but we'll have to put that in the comments. What you think? Should they
actually? Are you aware? Quickly, I-95. Back in the early 70s, when it was completely developed large between New York and D.C., the section between Baltimore and D.C. was just finished last. And they actually were going to experiment with a 65-mile-an-hour speed limit, 3 lanes each direction. But the outside lane would have a speed limit of 125.
Oh, wow.
The plan was to experiment to see how the Autobahn system would work in the U.S. Fortunately for the United States, the Arab oil embargo hit.
Wow.
And the whole thing fell apart. It
went down to 55. Yeah.
It would have just been, imagine, untrained drivers in the left lane going 125.
And everybody would have went down there just to do that, so it would have created more traffic. And then you would have had like thousands of people trying to do that. and like, hey, so what if I have 40-year-old tires? I don't look at brakes. Who needs brakes?
A whole lot of watch this happening.
Hold my beer. Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, we're glad that didn't happen, but we appreciate you listening to Cruise Control. Don't forget to check us out on all our social media platforms. Time for me to say I'm Fred Staab.
I'm Les Jackson.
We are going to see you down the road.
Bye.